Right, so today's challenge, what we've been doing is turning part of this old wall into a little folly. What we've done is we've cleaned up the bricks, we've put out the cement mortar, and we built this fancy little bit at the top. What I'm doing now is just pointing it up. We've got a pretend stone lintel there. Well, I say pretend, it is a stone lintel that I've made. It's all hand carved. A little heart shape in it for Lady's hair, and then some random bits of stone from the top. Now all this stone looks sort of like good dirty and age after a while, and a bit of green on it and all that, and it looks white and nice. And of course, what we've done is used this double glazed unit to make a bit of a feature. So the material that we're using is good old sand and cement. It's got a little bit of earth pigment in it. And as per usual, when pointing, whether it's lime or sand and cement, you keep your joints moist. And for this we have one of these pump bottles. I've just purchased 2 new ones because my old one had gone buggered. 2 nice new ones. Give it a light spray every now and again, and it just keeps that existing mortar beds damp, so the new pointing sticks to it and doesn't fall out. Okay, right, so somewhere I got 2 big wasps there. Right. So somewhere we've got our tools. There they are. 3 different sizes trowels, as usual. It's 3 different sizes of joints. And the nice little thing that I bought, keeping the trowels in, so I'm not hunting for them every 2 minutes. On this particular wall, I changed a lot of bricks in it. It was in a bit of a state, and then I've extended it from kind of here. It was all stepped down where the old wall had been taken down at some point. So I've extended it up again. And obviously built the little pillar at the end there with the window frame. Now with this, unlike lime, we don't have to bother with cherishing sheets. We don't have to leave it for days on end and mess about with it, which is one of the beauties with using the old sand and cement. Of course, come the winter, we can always put a little bit of a little frost proofer in it, or rapid hardener as it's known, which helps to set it quickly, so those nighttime temperatures of frost etc. don't do any damage to it. And what I'm doing, I'm knocking it back with a soft brush to age it, because I don't want it looking brand new. That kind of defeats the object of what I'm doing. Right, take a trowel for that. There we go. Excuse me. Fogging the old throat there. A lot of dust yesterday, no doubt. I didn't bother filming the grinding off, etc. I've shown that many a time. And it was quite dusty, I've got to admit. Got to ground back the base of his old bricks with a diamond cut disc. Just to clean them up a bit, because they were smeared with sand and cement and paint and all sorts of things. They looked quite messy. So I just wanted them cleaned up a bit, but not too much. Because again, we don't want it looking new. And then whenever you come to a reveal or something like that, a corner, I always like to follow it round so you get that nice square edge, and you know that it's all stuck together nicely. Rain and so on. So don't want it too weak. You never really want to be going over a 4:1, you know. If you were to do, say, like a 3:1 gauge, it would be far too hard. Even for modern bricks, it'd be too hard. Of course, these are a modern brick in comparison to what we're used to. And also, these are a lot harder than the old Victorian clay commons that normally use. And normally repoint or restore. So of course a brick wall can be fun. Right, so the next bit is giving it a tap up with this soft brush. If we can find the damn thing, there it is. Now, there's no technical reason for doing this. It's purely cosmetic. Because I just want to age this brickwork ever so slightly. Like I said, I don't want it looking modern. So it's just a soft brush. Nothing special, just a soft brush. I wouldn't use a churning brush, because that'll just basically dig holes in it. Whereas this will just put a little bit of a dimple on it, so it looks like it's been done with a churning brush. And when dry, it'll look quite attractive. Plus, you know, the fact it is technically it is compacting it back. You know, it's knocking it back to the back of the joint. But you don't actually need to do that with a cement point. It's only really life you need to compact like that. Doing something like this is nice, you know, it gives you a bit of artistic license just to It's not a bit different. Of course, in a couple of hours all this will be set and solid. You don't have to worry about things like rain, which I believe we're getting a lot of tomorrow. I mean, you don't want it drying too fast. No, don't get me wrong. You don't want the sun to come on it and dry it out quick because it'll just powder rather than set. But you can get around that by just giving it a little spray of water every now and again. Just keep it moist. I think this time of year we're not going to see a lot of sunshine. I love in the south you are the next couple of days, but I don't think we're getting any up this way. Or so I'm led to believe. Lovely. Right. There you have it. The old cement pointing made to look old. Right, well that's brew time over. Now, as I've said in the past, before you start sort of applying your pointing, you've got to make sure that those joints are nice and damp. So, like you've just seen there, you do it with a spray bottle, you could do it with a hose pipe, or you could use a brush and a bucket of water and just flick it on there, as long as it's damp. Also, as you're sort of going through the job, every now and again, just give it a little spray with water, just stop it drying out too fast. Now, this is a cement-based mortar. I'm doing it with lime on this particular one, and it's pretty much at this stage the same as doing your lime pointing. You've got to get it and push it right to the back of that joint. The joints are cut in about 25mm. You don't need to go any more than 25. I mean, you can, but you don't have to. Okay, so like I said, it's sand and cement. Now, why are we using sand and cement on this and not lime? Well, purely because it's been rebuilt with cement mortar at some stage. So yeah, it'd be pretty pointless repointing it with lime, with it being cement-based mortar beds. It's no benefit whatsoever doing it with lime. Okay, so you can see here the finish that I put on it with a soft brush. I've just tapped it like as if it's had a churning brush on it, like it's all brickwork. Because I'm just trying to build a bit of a featured wall here. You know, it's in the garden at home, so a bit of artistic license is allowed, I suppose. Hence the old LED light in there and the fancy bit of carved stone on the top. Right, let's have a look at one or two other jobs. Now, some of you may remember a couple of weeks ago the stone refacing that I undertook on a property for a client. Now, there are many, many different types of stonework refacing, you know, from just basic standard stuff like this one to basically something as technical and as ornate as this piece that's completely eroded away. I managed to get it. You'd be surprised, actually. At first thoughts, it was like, it's buggered, it's going to need new stone, but I actually refaced this using a combination of trowels and straight edges and some little clay working tools and things like that. As you'll now see just how I managed to do it. There you go. There's no new stone gone into that whatsoever. That's all handcrafted with lime mortar and earth pigments. It is quite effective. And once it had all dried out and it was all the same colour, you couldn't tell that it was not stone. I was very pleased. And of course the client was extremely pleased as well. We did the full building, including round windows and things like that. There was a lot of eroded stone. Now this particular building, it was or it is in Blackpool near the seafront. This is part of the same building here, and as you can see, we've refaced this stone, not replaced it. And the same with these mullions, they were quite eroded, and we refaced them again with lime mortar. This next shot is of a stone bay. No brickwork on the bay at all, it was all stone. And as you can see, it was terribly eroded away. Like I say, it's pretty much on the seafront of Blackpool as this. And this was a hell of a challenge. I had to make up some tooling to run the shapes, etc. But again, it worked out quite well. I don't know what you think of that, but that is basically the same bay. And again, there is no stone in that. That's all done with lime mortar and earth pigments. And as you can see there, I put a little bit of grain in it here and there just to give it a bit of realism. And all the joints, of course, you don't go over the joints. You point them in with lime once you've completed and everything's dry. Right, on to the next. This next project is at Lytham Hall in Lancashire. Now, this is the remains of what used to be a boathouse on the lake at the hall itself, or in the grounds of the hall. It was built for the children of the Clifton family, who at the time were the owners of the hall itself. The hall, incidentally, is well worth a visit and is open to the public. Now, there I am, rebuilding the top of the Gothic arch, trying to conserve this brickwork. It was very, very unstable. Now, the boathouse had two of these Gothic arches. There's one on the other side of the building, or the ruins, shall we say, that the kids pushed into the lake. We're not rebuilding that. But I have rebuilt some of the side walls, as you can see here, just to give people an idea on sort of like the size and shape of the building when it was an actual building rather than a pile of rubble covered in moss. Now here you can see the arch from the lake itself. Now, like I said, there have been two of these Gothic arches. This is the one that we've done the conservation work on, and there would have been one in front of the one you can see there, which of course is long, long gone. It's down there somewhere in the lake, courtesy of the local idiotic kids. Now, this particular one here is the other side of the one we've just restored, or conserved, shall we say. And it's still in a bit of a mess. We've still got a lot of work to do on that, but somehow we've got to build a scaffolding across what's the remains of the lake and sort it out. Okay, this chimney, believe it or not, is done in new bricks. It is actually built with lime mortar, but the bricks are new. Now, the reason the bricks are new is because at some stage in the building's history, somebody had removed the chimney. It was long gone. And my client wanted to basically have a working chimney again because he wanted a couple of log burners fitting. So while it was having a new roof put on, we were called in to go and build him a new chimney. It was a bit of a challenge. It was a good height to get up there, but I managed to do it, and it looked quite effective when completed. Well, I'm quite sure that subscribers to the channel will recognise this. It's a statue of St Anne on the St Anne's Parish Church in Lancashire. And we've done quite a big preservation job on the church bell tower itself recently. And as part of it, we gave this statue a bit of a repair here and there, and a good scrubbing up. She's about 150 years old and was in a bit of a bad way. So let's have a look at what she was like before. Now you can see that she's absolutely covered in this lichen, the browny, greeny stuff that's all over her. So what I did, I used basically a killer for lichen, a special chemical, and you just apply it with a bit of a paintbrush, and then you give it a bit of a scrub with a scrubbing brush, and then you hose it all down with water to get that. Part of the conservation work we were doing on the church belfry was to remove the paint from the cast iron clock face. Now this clock face was put in 1899. And it was first made by a company called Potts of Leeds, who were clockmakers. So what we did, we removed all of the paint using an air tool known as a needle gun. I then repainted it, as you can see here, with a special metal paint that basically converts the rust into a primer. We used gold and bronze coloured. Now the hands, we removed those and we took them to the workshop and stripped them completely of the paint back to the original copper, and then we gilded them with gold leaf. And it looked quite stunning when finished. I believe the clocks are now working. One of the most expensive parts of the projects we undertake tend to be the erection of the scaffolding. It never comes in very cheap. Now I do have quite a bit of scaffolding of my own, which I use for doing the smaller buildings, or shall we say the ones that aren't quite as high. It's a combination of tubular scaffolding and some H-framing. As you can see here, it's all combined. It doesn't look very safe, but believe me, it is. It's all basically robust and as safe can be. Because at the end of the day, I do not want to be falling off. Injuries stop you working, and you're not working, you're not earning, as you could appreciate. So I always make sure that my own scaffoldings are quite safe, although they do look a bit horrendous on some of the videos that I put out there. Now, this particular scaffolding here, put it this way, the cost of it in, say, 1990, you could have probably bought yourself a nice little terraced house. It was very expensive. Probably 3 times what we actually quoted for doing the work itself. In my opinion, it was a little bit too expensive, but I didn't get in the scaffolders, so not my problem really, that one. Now this particular piece here was basically part of a project we were doing last winter. Now the stonework on this building in parts was virtually gone. It was in such a state. And when we first looked at the job, we were told, well, just make it smooth, just tidy it up. Originally, it had this pattern on it, and I couldn't resist. I was going to do it smooth, and I thought, no, I'm going to have a go with it and see if I can actually do it. So this pattern has been basically carved into the fresh mortar. And yeah, it looked effective when it was completed. Okay, so you can see here, this is the first coat known as a scratch coat, which I applied. Now, I did a rough sketch, so to speak, on the scratch coat, purely because it'll make it a lot simpler to do once applying the top coat to it. There's no rules, set ways of doing this kind of stuff. You've got to work it out yourself and basically just trial and error until you've got it. And there's another view of the piece itself finished with a little bit of line pointing above to the stonework. This was a tricky little job to do, I've got to admit, but we got through it, and everybody was happy at the end of the day. We did 1 or 2 other bits and pieces on there, which we'll show you in this next shot here. This is the top of a stone bay. Now you can see the little castle-y bits just underneath the ledge there. I had to reproduce those by hand, one at a time. And this was done in winter. I used a prompt cement on this, purely because it was the middle of winter and lime just wasn't a setting time. Here's another bit of the same job. Now, again, I had to reproduce this by hand. There was very little of it left. It was starting to fall apart very, very badly. But I managed to get it, and I've not actually, unfortunately, I've not got any photographs of it completed, which is a shame because once the whole panel was completed and it dried out, it looked absolutely amazing. Now, this next piece here, you can see how eroded it is. So what we did was basically refaced it, and we were using again a prompt cement, and you start off putting on a very, very tight scratch coat. I tend to put a bit of a slurry on it first, but then I put on a very tight scratch coat, as you will see in the next shot. Now there's your scratch coat. Obviously it doesn't look that good at this this particular stage. It just looks like a bit of rendered wall. However, after a little bit of hard work and knowledge, skill, and straight edges and swearing and all sorts of things, we ended up with something as ornate as that. As you can see, it's a lot of angles there to do. But again, once it was dried out and the whole thing was completed, it actually looked pretty much like the rest of the stone did, only it wasn't eroded. It was nice and smooth and flat. Colour-wise, worked out perfect. Sometimes it's a bit hit and miss with colours on stone, but this particular one worked out fine. Right, next let's have a look at a bit of lime plastering. This is another job that I undertake. This particular job I did last year in December and January. Yeah, it's a traditional lime plaster. You start off with your scratch coat, sometimes known as a cracking coat, and then you apply your float coat on top of that, and then on top of that you apply your lime putty finish. However, it's not as simple as that. It takes quite a few days, possibly weeks, because you've got to let everything dry out in between coats. It also contains animal hair. In this case, it was goat hair. The finish itself, that was done with a lime putty mix. So we did a 50-50 mix here of lime putty and a fine white sand. Now we use this finish throughout the job. And again, it's nothing like using a gypsum finish. There are videos out on the channel that you can flick through to watch us undertaking most of these projects that were featured in this particular video, including the lime plastering, which is possibly one of our better videos. Seems to be quite a popular one with people out there. This is one of the bedrooms that we've completely replastered using the old lime. And as you can see, it's as original can be. Exactly the same material as they used back in the Victorian era, including the wooden dowel beads on the corners there. The only modern thing in there really is the electrical socket on the wall. Everything else has been removed back to brick and completely replastered from start to finish. Here you can see a long shot of the lounge that we did. Now, the fireplace itself, the bottom end of it, the dark coloured stuff, that's actually stone, great big lumps of stone, and we restored that too. Now here's a picture of the mortar that we used for the scratch coat and the float coat. It's the same mortar, same ratio of mix, etc. And again, if you want a bit more detail, just tune in to one of our other videos. And here's the lime putty that we tend to use for making up our finishes. It's just purely a putty. We add the sand. And a shot of another one of the bedrooms with a bit of very fancy plaster work to do on the chimney breast there. It was a bit awkward as well, and very cold in there. It was, like I say, it was in between basically December and January, and cold and freezing. Right, so this is the lounge wall before we did any plaster work, and I'll give you a quick look in a sec at the finished room to give you that last view of how it comes up when you lime plaster. I mean, you can see there that brickwork, it's been sat there since early Victorian era, and you know it looks absolutely buggered, but you get that lime plaster back on it and it really does neaten it up and look fab. Again, some of you may recognise this particular building from previous videos on the channel. Now, this was the Trawboat Inn, and it was built in 1864. Now, the name Trawboat Inn, yes, it was actually a pub with letting rooms above. And Eventually, in 1963, I think it was converted into 2 cottages after it falling out of favour with the local gentry. So the project was to remove all of the paint from the walls, including the stonework. I've recut the stonework, so all the erosion's gone from it. It's lovely clean stone now, and I've removed all of the paint from the brickwork. It's been quite a challenge. Once all of the paint had been removed, I then cut the mortar bedding back to about 30mm and repointed it with a quick lime mortar. This particular job isn't finished yet. There's still a lot more to do on it. Still got to do the side and the rear, and then at some point get inside, strip the walls back to brick again, and replaster with lime. Also, I do believe that she wants one of the walls inside leaving as brick and restoring and pointing in lime itself. Here you can see the finished result after all the paint has been removed and the stone has been recut. You wouldn't really know that it had ever been smeared with a cement slurry and thick paint. And of course now the building is breathable because it's back to as it was originally constructed, with fully breathable beds under that brickwork and around that stonework. Somebody had made a complete mess of the front of this building. Well, in fact, the whole building, front, side, and back. Now then, this next job. This was a boundary wall, garden wall, whichever you prefer, that had gone over in the wind. It was a Victorian townhouse that it belongs to, and the chap that owns the property was a little bit concerned because they had a child with learning difficulties, and he was bothered the child would escape. So we rebuilt the wall. Now, I did this particular project with our late friend Dave, the bricklayer. He made a lovely job of it, as you can see there. I laid 1 or 2 bricks with him, but the majority of it he did. And I did the fetching, carrying, and mixing for him. Because I'm nice like that, you know. Anyway, it's coming to the end of this particular video now. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and apologies for it being a short one. Not been able to get out on site this week because of the weather. So I just thought I'd put this quick video together for you. Right, well, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give us a thumbs up as normal. And thanks to all the new subscribers out there. If you haven't subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. And we shall see you next week.